Hi everyone, welcome back to my 5-part beginner crochet series where I discuss crochet fundamentals. In part 1, I discussed how to hold your hook, how to hold your yarn, how to slip knot, and how to chain. So if you don't know how to do those, be sure to check my last video in part 1. In today's video, part 2, I will be discussing how to single crochet and how to have double crochet. So keep watching to follow along and let's get right into it. So in part 1 of my series, I talked about how to create a chain like this. And I also discussed that this is the front side of your chain where you can see all of these V stitches. The other side, they look more like chain links. That is your back side. When you are working your single crochets, you want to make sure that you are looking at the top side of this chain at all times. Don't flip your work. That is a common mistake. So make sure that you keep that in mind as you're working, that if you flip your work and things maybe start to look twisted, you can tell that your chain down here is twisted as you're working. Just keep in mind that to go back and say, okay, I need to keep this where I can see these V's at all time. But to create your single crochet, what you are going to do is insert your hook in the second loop from the chain. So what that means is that you have your chain on your hook here and that this is the first loop. But if I were to insert my loop or my hook into this one and do a single crochet, you see that the yarn would just keep going through, right? So to prevent this, you are going to single crochet in the second loop from the chain. So I'm skipping this one and I'm going to be working into this loop right here. So remember, we're going off the V's here. So in each of these top loops, I'm going to be working. Now, how to single crochet, you are going to insert your hook into that loop, wrap your yarn over the hook like so, and then slide your hook in that loop. Now I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to wrap the yarn around once more and slide the hook through both. That is a single crochet. So I'll demonstrate that a couple more times. I insert my hook through that loop, wrap my yarn around, and making sure that my hook isn't facing up or facing forward. Otherwise it's going to get stuck. You're going to have a hard time getting it through. You want to point your hook down so that you can easily slide it through. Now I have my 2 loops on my hook. I wrap the yarn around once more and I slide through both. So I'll show you that a couple more times here. I'll go a little faster just so you can see how my hands are constantly moving, and you want to get to the point where you can do this pretty efficiently and that you're not really struggling to hold the hook or anything. So now I have these single crochets, and remember how the front side of the chain looks like these V's? Well, now the single crochets have the V's on top. That is exactly what you want. So I will just demonstrate it one more time. Insert my hook, wrap my yarn around, bring my hook through, slide it through, wrap my yarn around again, and slide through both loops. That is your single crochet. And then when it comes to counting, I created 25 chains. However, since I skipped that first loop closest to my hook, remember that? I skipped it. So that means I'm going to have 24 single crochets. And you can count them by just counting these V's, these stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 so far. I want 24 since I skipped that first one. So I would just keep going and make sure to count so that you get 24 single crochets. So anytime you are working in rows and you make your chain, you're going to do one extra so that when you skip that first loop, you have the exact amount that you want. So if I wanted, if I was working like a washcloth and I was working in rows and I wanted it to be 30 stitches across, I would start by chaining 31, skipping the first one, and then keep going and creating 30 every time. I have finished my row of single crochets here. I have 24, so remember I said I did 25 stitches, but since you are skipping that first stitch, the one closest to your hook, and you're going to the second chain from the hook, I will have 24 single crochets here. Now I have all of my single crochets. I have the V's on the top here. If I were to continue to single crochet, what you would do is chain one, so just wrap your yarn around once and then pull through. That's just the one chain. And then I'm going to flip my work from right to left. So now I can start working again through these loops. So I just flip it from right to left. So as we did with the chain, we had only one loop that we were going through since it was more two-dimensional, but now it's a little bit more 3D. So you can see the holes that you want to insert your hook into, but it's going to be right underneath both of these loops now. So now you have 3 loops on your hook. However, you're going to be treating it just like you did with the chain, where you wrap your yarn around the front of the hook and you pull through both of those loops, and then wrap your yarn around again and pull through both of those loops, and you're continuing your single crochets. So now for my next one, I have these 2 loops here, that V. I'm going to insert my hook underneath both of them, wrap my yarn around, and I'm going to slide my hook underneath, wrap my yarn around again. There you go. And you just keep following this pattern. So you can kind of see that there are some gaps left in here. That's kind of where you want to aim your hook to be. You want it to be underneath both of those loops. If sometimes you might accidentally just get in one, or your thread might split, just make sure you take it out again and you try to find both of your loops. Wrap the yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around, pull through. And then you would just continue this for however many single crochets you want to do. And when you would reach the end, you would chain one and then flip your work again from right to left and just keep continuing. And that's how you create rows. So you start with that chain, single crochet, and then you just keep chaining, turning your work, and then you would keep going, and you're going to be adding this yarn and the same pattern all throughout. That is your single crochet. I'm going to finish this row, and then I'm going to show you how to half double crochet. So I've made it to the end of that row, but you may be thinking when you get to the end, well, I have this little bit of gap here, but do I want to single crochet in it? That is where counting comes in handy. So I just counted my stitches. I have 23 single crochets, but I need there to be 24. So that's how you would know that you need to single crochet right in this stitch right here. And now I have my 24 stitches, and it should stay even as I work up, as long as I'm making sure to count that I have 24 each time. So now to half double crochet, I'm going to chain one again and then flip my work from right to left. And now the only difference between single crochet and half double crochet is that you are going to wrap your yarn around before inserting the hook. So normally with the single crochet, we would insert our hook first. This time we're wrapping yarn around, and then we're going to insert a hook. And so now we have 4 loops on our hook. What you're going to do is wrap your yarn around again, slide your hook through those first 2 just like with the single crochet, and now you have 3 loops instead of the 2. Wrap your yarn around again and bring it through all 3. That is a half double crochet. So again, wrapping your yarn around first and then inserting your hook in those 2 loops. Now you have 4 loops. Wrap your yarn around, bring it through just those first 2. You have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap your yarn around and insert it through all 3. Now sometimes your yarn may get stuck and your hook can poke out before you can pull it through all 3 at once. That's okay. You can just go one by one if you want. If maybe that feels better to you. I'll show that one more time. So I have my 3 loops. I'm just gonna bring my hook through one at a time. Sometimes if you have tricky yarn to work with, that might be a little bit easier. But you do want to bring your hook through all 3 loops there. So wrapping around, bringing through, wrap around, bring through all 3. That is your half double crochet. It looks very similar to a single crochet. Only difference is that it is slightly taller. So most of the differences between crochet stitches is the height and how much yarn you use. A single crochet is one of the smallest stitches to use, so it is just very short. You won't get very far working a lot of rows by only doing single crochet. It's going to take a lot more time because it just has a lot less height. But with this half double crochet, it is a little bit longer. So you might finish, if you're just working, if you're making a project and you're just trying to get height really fast, then a half double crochet might be even better. But for part 3, I'm going to show you how to do a double crochet, which is even taller than the half double crochet. So just keep that in mind when you're working with crochet, that the different stitches can give you different heights. So it's just whatever project you want or whatever pattern you have that calls for it. But for now, this is just a tutorial on, very basic single crochet and half double crochet. Again, just making sure that you are very patient with this. Crocheting can take a lot of practice to get right. I still mess up now and again as well. So just make sure that you're patient and just get your tension right first. So you see how all my stitches are very even here. They have the same amount of space. Make sure that you can do this before moving on to any next step. Just keep practicing this. Keep going row by row by row until you can get your tension to look like this, or just as even as you can before moving on. But practice makes perfect, and you got this. I believe in you. Keep crocheting.